Guys, we've had our appetizer, but now for the first time, we're going to have some main course action. Meaningful football being played this weekend, in case you guys have not heard. We've made it through the dog days of summer. We've made it through spring ball, and now we are here looking at actual college football games being played, which means we can stop talking about what could happen this season. We can go ahead and start talking about the play on the field. So very excited about this particular pod because we're going to dive into the games that are going to be happening this upcoming weekend. And I'm really excited for it because we have 6 games that will be played over the course of Saturday. Half of those games we will actually take a chance to preview here on this pod tonight, as 3 such games do feature Power 5 teams. So we're going to watch those 3 Power 5 games, or at least games that feature Power 5 teams. And then not only that, I'm also going to go ahead and give you my first Wendy's 4 for 4 special here on the Any Given Saturday podcast here on August 21st. That is when I'm recording this podcast. Very excited about that, giving you the 4 bets that I am the most confident about going into this Saturday. So you're going to want to stay for this whole thing. So hope you guys are excited for this upcoming podcast. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me, because what you do when you smack that like button for me is that you get this video out to more college football fans like yourself, because that YouTube algorithm, many YouTubers talk about it, but it is a brutal thing. It is a truly brutal shite, right? So hit that like button for me. That'll truly help me out. And then you also have the opportunity to become an OG of this community as well by hitting that subscribe button. We're sitting at 19 subscribers going into kickoff, and I would love to see you guys join this fledgling community that we're trying to build over here on the Any Given Saturday podcast. We have that and so much more. And I'm going to use that as the opportunity to go ahead and jump into the first segment in this one. Future me, this is going to be your starting point right about here. So I hinted at this in the Discord. For those of you that follow me on social media, this is not my only channel. I also am the owner of John J Gaming over on YouTube as well. That is a college football gaming channel. But that being said, though, I have something very excited to show you guys. I've been putting some real thought into this. I had some extra time on my hands this past weekend. And what I did is I put together this power rating system. Now, this power rating system that I'm about to show you guys, it does rank every FBS team that is going to set the field this season from 1 to 133. So every FBS team is going to be included. And how I also put it together was I looked at multiple publications that ranked every single FBS team. I took a look at places like CBS Sports and collegefootballnews.com, those 2 websites primarily, as well as, a little bit of a gut check from yours truly. And based on that, I gave every FBS team, all 133 teams, their own individual power rating number. Now, that being said, what that power rating number represents in this top 25, my preseason top 25 that I am getting ready to show you guys, it's just a matter of, in my opinion, who would be favored over whom if they took a field at a neutral site game. That's really what it barrels down to. So that being said, let's go ahead and not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. Here is my top 25 for the preseason going into week number 0. And we'll start from the bottom and work our way towards the top. We'll start from 20 to 21 to 25. 2 teams that actually aren't featured in the AP poll. Got UCLA and South Carolina, who are not ranked in the AP poll. But in my opinion, after looking at the numbers, I think both of these teams should be ranked. And 2 teams that also could be wild cards as well, Oklahoma and Texas A&M. I do think, to a degree, they can have bounce back years. Oklahoma at 21, Texas A&M at 24, and then rounding out this group is the national semifinalists at TCU. I have them ranked number 22 in the country TCU did lose quite a bit of talent, but that being said, defending national semifinalists, we'll see what they can do as the runners-up. Can they repeat and have success here this season as well? Now, we'll go to 16 through 20 up next. Going to number 20, I got Iowa. Iowa, of course, coming in with one of the best defenses in the country, but do they fix things enough on the offensive end? Because their defense can't do everything. I got Iowa at 20. Oregon State at 19, a dark horse to possibly win the Pac-12. They got DJU. Kansas State at number 18 for defending Big 12 champions. We'll see what Kansas State can do once again. Colin Klein, he's got a very good program up there at Kansas State. At number 17, I got Ole Miss. We'll see what Ole Miss can do. An offensive-minded school could be tested a little bit early here to get things going. And then at 16 is Wisconsin. Wisconsin could be a dark horse to win the Big Ten. Certainly a favorite to win the Big Ten West. After that, we jump into the top 15. Starting at 15, got Oregon, led by Bo Nix. Notre Dame, who's got some more offensive firepower and should be better on the defensive end. I have them ranked number 14. Tennessee at 13. We'll see what Tennessee could do with the departures of guys like Hendon Hooker and other notable players as well. Hendon Hooker mostly comes to mind. Texas is 12. They got the talent, but can they put it all together? Florida State could turn some heads as well. And then rounding out the top 10, I got the Washington Huskies. Went 11-2 last year without any NFL draft picks. They should be better on the top end. They could make some noise to win the Pac-12 as well. Now, speaking of which, let's jump into the rest of that top 10. I got Utah at number 9. Utah, defending champs of the Pac-12. Clemson at number 8, defending champions of the ACC. At number 7 is Penn State. The Nittany Lions are my 7th best team in the country right now. The Nittany Lions could be a team that could win the Big Ten East. Gonna have to prove things against Ohio State and Michigan. They do get 1-2 at home. LSU, they overachieved last year, but I have them at number 6. Is this team good enough to once again beat Alabama, this time on the road, and win the SEC West once again? They got more talent than last year. It's certainly not out of the question. Now, let's go ahead and jump into that top 5 to round out this group. At number 5, I got USC, the Trojans, led by Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy winner. If he can stay healthy this time around, does he have what it takes to go out and lead USC to the college football playoff? They nearly did that last year. Utah stopped them from doing that. And right now, for the preseason top 25, the 4 teams that would be projected to make the 14 playoff technically, Alabama at number 4, Ohio State at number 3. Both of those schools have question marks in terms of going about finding that quarterback to lead them through this season. Michigan has their core coming back, but can they get over the hump? And of course, at number 1, I have the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia's coming in. Well, we'll see what this Georgia team can do. 2-time defending national champions, can be the first school since before World War II to get the three-peat. They certainly have a chance to make it happen. They got to answer some questions on the offensive side of the football. So that is going to be my preseason top 25 in terms of the any given Saturday power ratings. And what do you guys think? Is there a team that I think is that you guys think is overrated based off of my rankings? Do you think that there's a team that should be ranked in the top 25? Most certainly let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and let me know what your honest thoughts are, as this is going to be a list that is going to fluctuate quite a bit as we get more information about the actual season. All of the data that is computed for these power ratings are based off of preseason stuff. So, it's going to take about a month or so before the current season is fully applied and the preseason no longer matters, but it's going to be very interesting, to say the least, to see how this upcoming season plays out. So I'm really excited for this college football season. I think there's certainly plenty of teams that could make some noise this upcoming season in terms of possibly making the college football playoff. But now let's go ahead and jump right into that game action that we do have going on right now. So, in case you guys have been living under a rock, we are seeing the very first college football game of the season for the 2023 season. It is not going to be played in the city of South Bend, Indiana. It's not going to be played in Annapolis, Maryland. Actually, now that I think about it, this game is not going to even take place in the continental United States. We are actually leaving the United States for this very first kickoff at 2:30 Eastern. We will start with our college football season with Navy taking on Notre Dame in Dublin, Ireland. Neutral site game to start things out. It's going to be on NBC. Navy coming off of a 4-8 record. They did end up firing their head coach. They did promote their defensive coordinator up to that head coaching position. Well, Notre Dame, they do have the aforementioned, they still have the same head coaches last year. They will still have Marcus Freeman, Wayne High School, Huber Heights, Ohio kind of alumni as well. He'll be back leading the team. So very excited about how the start of this season is going to go. Notre Dame and Navy. And these two teams actually did go play against each other in South Bend last year, if I'm not mistaken. This was actually a shootout between these two teams, and Notre Dame won, but it was closer than what the folks had it. Notre Dame ended up winning. It was 35-32. It was a surprising shootout, one that Navy was almost able to pull off, but it's a brand new season. What is new with this brand new season? Well, like I said, Notre Dame, they got some new cogs on the offensive side of the ball, and most notably, they got Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman, of course, was the quarterback for Wake Forest coming into this year. He already has close to 8,000 yards the past two seasons at Wake Forest, and also has a touchdown to interception ratio of about 3-1. So this is someone that is going to be a major upgrade on the offensive line for the quarterback position. They were stuck with Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner. Tyler Buckner, I never believed really was the guy per se, and Drew Pine was fine. Drew Pine is not Sam Hartman. So a lot of reasons to be optimistic about this particular Notre Dame team, right? So very excited about that portion of it. We'll go ahead and check what the line has and how this is going to work. I'm going to show the game line for every game that we preview, the over-under, and then also what does the any given Saturday power ranking line have? Well, let's go ahead and jump right into that portion. So Notre Dame is listed as a 20.5 favorite. And as of right now, the over-under is listed at 50.5 going into this game. So how I kind of want to break this down is I want to start with if there's an upset in this game, because it's college football. When you got 18 to 22-year-old kids lining up against each other on a football field, they're young men, but they're still, learning how to be adults, right? So when you get kids on the field, essentially, you get more variety in results. So how does this upset happen? We'll start with Navy. So I think there is a few key components in terms of how Navy is going to pull off this upset if they are going to get the job done, right? So first and foremost, if Navy is going to win against Notre Dame, first and foremost, they have to have a dominant running game. Now, this Navy offense is going to be a little bit different than what it was last year. Expect to see a little bit more wrinkles in this triple option attack, so could be a little bit more balance between the rush and the pass, but 80 to 90% of the time, I still expect Navy to run the football in that traditional triple option set. So what that tells me is that Navy is still going to rely very heavily on the running game. And for Navy to win this game, they need this rushing attack to be absolutely dominant. Last year, Navy was fourth in the country in running the football, which it's fine, which is really nice. I mean, top five out of 130 plus teams. It sounds fantastic. However, they hardly pass the ball at all. So when all you do is run the football, 241 yards per game is just not going to be enough. Now, not too long ago, this Navy team was a very strong team, a team that was getting a college football playoff consideration, or at least getting ranked in the college football playoff polls. Back in 2019, pre-COVID, they went 11-2, and how they managed to do that, they were number one in the country in running the football. They ran it for 361 yards a game. They also scored 52 touchdowns. So for Navy to win this game, the first ingredient for this upset is that they're going to have to be dominant in running the football. So Notre Dame, we know Notre Dame is going to be improved on the defensive side of football. Marcus Freeman is a defensive coach. He has a defensive background, was a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, was a defensive coordinator at Cincinnati before that. For Navy to win this game, they need to run it for at least 260 yards, because out of 12 games that Navy played last year, they only pulled that off twice. So if they can find 260 yards on the ground, that's going to be the first ingredient of success. The next big key for Navy to pull this upset off is that you're going to have to limit Notre Dame's ability to hold on to the football. So it's a 60-minute game, and luckily, Navy is more than capable of doing that, even though they weren't as good as maybe what they traditionally are in terms of running the football, right? So Navy last year averaged about 35 minutes of time of possession compared to their opponents who averaged 25 minutes a game. So limiting the possessions that Notre Dame is going to have, keeping your defense fresh, that's going to be extremely important as well, because Navy, so recruiting for military academies is a lot different than traditional college football teams, because you're not necessarily recruiting guys to be football players first, if that makes sense. You're recruiting guys that are going to be part of your military, and the type of body that is required to serve in the U.S. military is typically different than what you are going to get for someone that you're trying to find specifically to play college football. So at Navy, it's that, serving the military first, college football comes second. So why that's really important to keep Notre Dame off the field is we know Notre Dame is going to have one of the best offensive lines in the entire country. And Notre Dame is coming in, they're going to have some guys that are, 260 pounds as nose tackles, right? That's not, they're going to have a size disadvantage, a pretty decent size advantage in the trenches right away. So really important that you kind of keep your defense, you kind of protect your defense in the way by sustaining long drives. And on those long drives, you got to come out with points, some type of points. Doesn't have to be touchdowns every single time, but you got to come away with field goals. We're talking about 5, 6, 7-minute drives for the majority of the game. That's what you need to do. Really limit this game, because the less possessions that there are, the more likely it is for Navy to win this game. If there's more possessions, that's going to favor Notre Dame. A third thing, too, on top of that is Navy just has to start better. I got a stat in front of me for 2022, one of the fun stats, I should say. So in 2022, out of all the games that Navy played, at the end of the first quarter, Navy was outscored 81-43. Because of how their offense is built, Navy has to get off to a decent start. If it's one of those starts where it's the end of the first quarter and Notre Dame is up 14-3 or 10-0, if it's a 2-possession lead before the end of the first quarter, it could be a long day for this Navy squad. because their offense is simply not built to go out and come back. They're not built to try to work their way back into games. They have to start off stronger. If they don't, it's going to be a long day. Now, going to the overside, going over to Notre Dame, I think the big thing for Notre Dame, if they want to come out and win this game, we got to start with that rushing game. Notre Dame was 7-0 last year when running for more than 150 yards. If they can get to that 150-yard mark for running the ball, then they're going to be in good shape, and they have an offensive line capable of doing just that. However, when they didn't run for 150 yards, they ended up going 2-4 last year. So, like I said, if they can get that ground game going, that's going to help Sam Hartman out because, yeah, Sam Hartman is an elite quarterback. But at the same time, that being said, he's going into a new offense. And also, who's Sam Hartman going to be throwing this football to? Michael Mayer left for the NFL. There's talent. Don't get me wrong. There is certainly a high level of talent for sure. But that being said, we have to consider these receivers need to step up. Who's going to do that? Who's going to be that guy? We don't know yet. We absolutely do not know yet. But that being said, this team should be pretty good. This Notre Dame squad should be a pretty good-looking team. I mean, the offensive tackles, we talked about how good that offensive line is. They're going to be more experienced. They should be even better. There's a young talent that's going to be around Sam Hartman. Defense should be even stronger than last year. So how do I legitimately think this game is going to go? Now, I'm saying all of this, that Northwestern Nebraska game, it was a really fun game to watch, and we expected Nebraska to win big. And that also turned out to be the last victory in the Pat Fitzgerald era as well. So I think it's one of those games where it could be close in the first quarter. And then when we get into that second, third quarter, right before half, more likely, I expect to see that front seven for Notre Dame get comfortable with playing against a triple option, because it is not an offense that you see every single day. It's simply not something that you're used to seeing. So I think it will be a quarter of adjustment, but starting that second and third quarter, late second, early third quarter, I think we start to see Notre Dame possibly pull away. And at the same time, I also believe that because they're going to be more balanced offensively, it's going to open up that grounded game. And if you can get that grounded game going, that's going to really set the tone. This might be a game where Sam Hartman doesn't have to go off and throw for like 350, 4 touchdowns, that type of game. I think they'll be just fine. Now, the Any Given Saturday line has this at 44.5. Not sure if it's going to be a 40-plus win, but I would be pretty comfortable with picking Notre Dame to win this game personally, just because I think offensive line is going to control the trenches, so that's going to allow the run game to get going. Sam Hartman is going to be able to make some of the plays that Drew Pine or Tyler Buckner wasn't able to make last year, and the defense will be better. So last year, it was just a field goal game. I expect this to be more than just a field goal win for Notre Dame, and I expect them to go 1-0 after their trip to Dublin, Ireland. But very intrigued to see what kind of changes that Navy makes on the offensive side, because they did bring in a new offensive coordinator. Something to definitely keep an eye out for. But how about we go and talk about some games that are actually happening in the continental United States? So that was not the only there's obviously Notre Dame and Navy game, and that's one of 2 ranked teams that are going to be playing this Saturday. But what about in the continental United States? There's other Power 5 teams that are going to be playing. We got the next game that I wanted to go ahead and talk about. So a game that kind of flew under the radar last year, but it caught some people attention when the final score was announced. So Vanderbilt and Hawaii. Last year, these two teams played at Aloha Stadium, I believe. It was the last year of Aloha Stadium, and Vanderbilt traveled across the country, and they smashed Hawaii. It was 63-10. It was a game that was not even close, per se, and the way that Vanderbilt did that too was also incredible. They ripped off 49 unanswered points in their ground game. They ran for over 400 yards on the ground. That is incredible to see. Now, that being said, what does that mean for the upcoming game? For the for this Hawaii team. Now, this Hawaii team this year, they actually have to go across the country this time around, and they're going to go play at Vanderbilt. So, cross-country trip for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Nobody travels more than this Hawaii team, and that's why they, as well as any team that Hawaii hosts, gets the option of having that 13th game because of those travel costs being so high. That's a little tidbit for today. Last year, Hawaii went 3-10 last year, while Vanderbilt ended up going 5-7. Now, the Hawaii team that's in place, they were a little bit better than what that 3-10 record shows. So 4 of their last 7 losses that they had, they were actually decided by a touchdown or less. And then also, even if you want to count that season finale against San Jose State, that was even a fight as well. They ended up losing that game 27-14. So, yes, they went 3-10 last year, but it doesn't change the fact that this Hawaii team really fought for their coach. And I think Coach Chang he's going to be someone that does an extremely good job of having his guys motivated and having his guys ready to go as well. Now, we'll go ahead and check out the line for this particular game. And I just checked FanDuel before jumping onto the podcast here. Vanderbilt is a 17-point favorite as of right now. And the line and the over-under is currently at 55.5 as well. So this could be a little bit higher of a scoring game. Now, whether that includes both teams or not, that's up for debate. So Hawaii is this 17-point underdog. How does Hawaii pull this upset off? Now, at the University of Hawaii, we know that they love to throw the football. They like to be that air raid type of team, and that could set them up to, they might not be on the field very much, but in terms of big plays, it's easier to get a big play in the passing game than it does to get a big play in the running game, if that makes any sense. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the keys for Hawaii to pull off this kind of upset. How is Hawaii going to be able to pull it off? There's 2 big keys that I think is going to be real necessary. 2 big keys for Hawaii to win this game. First, for the Hawaii team, they got to do a better job of converting on 3rd downs. Everything that Hawaii does on offense, it revolves around that ability to convert those 3rd downs. Because of the fact that they are an air raid team, they're never going to be the type of team that is going to dominate the time of possession. Granted, they were actually just fine. They were competent at running the ball, but they would prefer to get the ball in the air and want to get it clicking with that passing game. So they need to be able to convert those 3rd downs so that they can keep their defense on the sidelines and do a little bit better at controlling the tempo. That way, if they're converting those 3rd downs, they would be the ones actually controlling the tempo a little bit more. And to put this in perspective, so Hawaii made it to the Mountain West title game back in 2019. And when they were able to accomplish this, they converted 47% of their 3rd down conversions. Last year, they converted only 34.5%. So a little bit of a fall from grace since 2019. However, that being said, all of the games that Hawaii won, and they ended up going 3-1 in such games, it was when they converted 40% or better on their 3rd down conversions. So if they're able to convert on their 3rd downs at a decent clip, you give yourself a chance right from the get-go. And for the second key is it's going to be really important to be able to stop the run. And it's for two different reasons. One, it goes back to that ability to control the tempo of the game, play the game on more your terms, and try to make this a little bit more of a track meet style of football game. And two, when the other team is able to run the ball down your throat, it demoralizes your defense. It's a tough way to go out. And last year, Hawaii was just not very good at stopping the run at all. They actually allowed more than 200 yards per game last year in terms of stopping the run. So that's going to be a big priority in this game. And that's why I think part of the reason why Vanderbilt does have the game line that they have, minus 17 right now in FanDuel, because Vanderbilt, they would prefer to run the football. They finished 5-7 last year, but when they ran for 150 yards or more, they were 5-1. They were very successful. They just weren't always able to run for 150 yards. So from that standpoint, I do think that this could be one of those games where it just isn't a very good matchup for Hawaii. I think that this could be a more entertaining game, and I think this is a type of game where I think that we could see this being closer than that 63-10 game that was last year. But I will say this, one thing that's considered an intangible. I know many of us are thinking about what's going on in Hawaii right now in terms of the island of Maui and those wildfires that are affecting that region of the country in a very devastating way. So that being said, I think that there could be some extra inspiration and motivation to for this Hawaii team to play even harder than maybe what they typically would, just to be that beacon for that community, because they are going through a lot right now. However, that being said, this is a team that allowed 400 yards on the ground to this Vanderbilt squad. Now, I don't think that this could be an offense that, behind A.J. Swan, the quarterback for Vanderbilt, and the rest of the Commodore offense, I don't expect them to rip off 600 plus yards like they did last year. But what I do think could happen, though, is that I think that this could be a more efficient offense, a balanced offense, and an offense that could start to work. But at the end of the day, while the Hawaii defense is improved, I think that they still have some things that they need to work on. And while maybe every once in a while, I think they'll be able to hold their own at Hawaii, I also think that even if they get those stops, I'm not completely certain if this offense will be able to fully take advantage of those opportunities that it creates, unless something crazy happens, like they get an interception or a fumble of some sorts, or some kind of special teams turnover in Vanderbilt territory. That it's really like one of those things. So I personally don't see Hawaii winning this game. I'm pulling for that community to continue to heal, and hopefully they can get the help that they need. But in terms of what's going to happen on the field, I think Vanderbilt is going to win this game comfortably, partially because of this being a bad matchup for Hawaii. And then at the same time, you also got to do a lot of traveling just to get to Nashville. And those cross-country travels are going to take a lot out of your body. I think Vanderbilt's going to be fresher than Hawaii is in this case as well. And I think Vanderbilt takes full advantage of that, and they get the win. And that, my friends, just leaves me with just one more game that is going to feature a Power 5 team. And this last matchup that takes place at 8 o'clock Eastern and is also going to be on the Pac-12 network as well, is going to feature that Heisman Trophy winner. It's going to feature USC, one of the best teams in the country. They come in ranked number 6 in the nation, probably the most high-profile team playing on Saturday. And they'll take on a decent program in San Jose State. Now, San Jose State, they're having one of their best 4 to 5 year runs in a very long time. And that's just a huge credit to that coaching staff. That coaching staff doing a very good job with leading this team. But right now let's go ahead. Let's dive into the game lines, right? So the game line for this is 30.5. USC is favored to win by 30 plus points. This is supposed to be the biggest blowout of Saturday evening. Now, this couple of things to keep in mind. USC has one of the best offenses in the country. San Jose State actually isn't too shabby in the offensive end as well. They average 28 points a game. So you want to talk about a game that is most likely to be an absolute shootout? This is the game to look for if you love offense, and rightfully so. This has the highest over-under as well. It's currently posted at 64.5 right now. So we'll jump into San Jose State first, and then we'll talk about what USC's got going on besides Caleb Williams. We all know what Caleb Williams can do. So San Jose State, they had a decent season last year. They went 7-5. They were not invited to a bowl game, unfortunately, but at the same time, this San Jose State squad, it's a solid football team. This is a very good program in the Mountain West. Maybe not the best program in the Mountain West. I would say that belongs to like the Boise States and the Fresno States of the world as well. But it's a good program. It is a pretty good program overall. They had 6+ wins, I believe, in their last 4 years. So that's nothing to scoff at. However, they are certainly going to be tested by that USC team. So what does San Jose State, what do they have to do in order to win this game? And I think for San Jose State, for them, it really comes down to the trenches. First and foremost, let's start with that offensive line. That offensive line has to do a better job of protecting their quarterback. Now, they have a quarterback in, let me go ahead. His name is escaping me right now. Chevin Cardiero. He is more of a mobile quarterback. He is a veteran quarterback, but at the same time, you got to give this kid time to throw the football because he can make the plays if you give him that time. But last year, that just didn't happen. They allowed 42 sacks last season on this quarterback. And over the previous 3 seasons, they averaged 44 sacks. So this offensive line has not gotten the job done. Average darn near 3 to 4 sacks allowed a game. It's a lot of hits that you're taking for a quarterback and could diminish a lesser quarterback's confidence. But at the same time, though, how else can the San Jose State team do? What can they do to win this game? Well, frankly, what they really need to do is they really need to be that team that is going to get to Caleb Williams. Because let's be honest, if Caleb Williams has time to cook, it's barbecue chicken. It's over. We know very well what Caleb Williams is capable of doing. He already has the Heisman Trophy on his resume. And if it wasn't for Caleb Williams getting hurt in that Pac-12 championship game, we might have seen USC in the college football playoff last year instead of Ohio State. Those are two things that could very well happen. So San Jose State's defense, they have to find a way to get home to Caleb Williams. Because if not, man, it's going to be a long day. It is going to be a very long day at the office. And the thing with USC too is, for all the problems that USC had, they actually did solid against stopping the pass. They were able to get a consistent pass rush. They had NFL players on that defensive line. Now, they got guys like Bear Alexander, most notably through the transfer portal. Now we're talking that USC team now beefed up in the front seven. So San Jose State, they're going to have to find a way to give this quarterback some time. And as long as USC can also stop the run as well. That was what really hurt them towards the end of the season. They couldn't stop it against Utah. They allowed over 200 yards on the ground. And then in that Cotton Bowl, they gave up over 300 yards to Tulane. Both of them ended up in losses. So that could be something that San Jose State could also try to go ahead and try to exploit as well. Maybe one of those situations where you're trying to, run some halfback draws, maybe some halfback screens, get them to be more committed to stopping that run, maybe be a little bit more honest in terms of maybe making some of these defensive linemen second guess themselves a little bit. Could be those type of things. But yeah, that we know Caleb Williams, we know that he's a bad man. And with Caleb Williams, USC is certainly capable of winning a national championship as long as Caleb Williams stays healthy. If he stays healthy, then the sky could be the limit for this USC team, because they are supposed to be better on the defensive side of the ball. Their coaching on the defense should be better too. Even the offensive line is going to be better as well. So they beefed up in the trenches, both sides of the ball, and defense is going to be better. Now, that being said, San Jose State being on national television, this could be a game where we see them come out fired up, maybe more motivated, because USC is, it could be a situation where you could certainly see USC maybe lollygag through the first quarter and a half. For San Jose State, this is their Super Bowl. So if we get through the end of the first quarter and we see San Jose State take the lead, we see this defense of the Spartans initially able to get home and get a few stops because of it, I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked at all if San Jose State is leading after one quarter of action. However, what I also think is eventually going to happen as well is Caleb Williams is going to start cooking eventually. I don't know when, but he's going to show those moments why he was a Heisman Trophy winner. I think that happens too. And with this Trojan defense being better, I mean, they got crushed their last 2 games of the year. I think it's also possible that they come out and play like they're trying to prove a point and make sure that this game is never close to begin with, and maybe create a situation to where maybe any significant thought of any crazy upset happening of any kind, well, that's going to be gone like a girl in a country song by about midway through the third quarter as well. This could be a bloodbath. This could certainly be a bloodbath. You could see the any given Saturday line, and right now that's posted up at about 47. It could get ugly, man. It could get extremely ugly, extremely fast. So watch out for that as well. So what we ended up doing today, we checked out Notre Dame and Navy to start out this pod. We also checked out Vanderbilt versus Hawaii. And we also checked out USC versus San Jose State, some of the bigger marquee games in week number 0. And now I want to go ahead and take this time. Let's jump into our very first Wendy's 4 for 4 special. For those of you that are gambling degenerates, these right here are going to be 4 bets that I feel the most confident about in week number 0. And without further ado, without any further introduction, let's go ahead and jump right into it, starting with a couple of lines that we've already talked about. Talked about Notre Dame at minus 20.5. I feel really good about that. I would feel the most confident about that particular line, actually, because I think that because they have Sam Hartman, the floor of this offense is just that much higher, and they'll be able to find balance against Navy. Navy is going to be worn down as well. I don't think they're going to be able to win in the trenches, and that's going to be an issue. So Notre Dame, I have them winning 20.5. Another game to also keep an eye on is I'm also looking at the Vanderbilt game. The Vanderbilt game that is at minus 17. Yeah, we're looking at that Vanderbilt game as well. They're going to be at home. Hawaii's going to have to travel across the country. I just think Vanderbilt's also going to be able to wear them down for similar reasons. I really like Vanderbilt at minus 17. As for games that we haven't spent any time talking about, first of which is San Diego State versus Ohio. San Diego State right now is at minus 2.5. I like San Diego State, and the reason why I like San Diego State is I think this is going to be a little bit more of a defensive-minded game. They brought in some transfers from the transfer portal. I think those linebackers that the Aztecs have brought in, they're going to do enough to be able to bottle in that Bobcat backfield. And Ohio, they were a little bit suspect on the defensive side of the ball. And before their bowl game against San Diego State, ironically, they've lost 10 consecutive non-conference road games, and that goes back to 2018. So could be a little bit of a revenge game, but I think San Diego State, this is a game where they pull away in the second half of a more defensive-minded game. Give me the Aztecs at minus 2.5. And finally, we got FIU and Louisiana Tech, but I'm not going to bet on one team specifically. I am actually going to bet on the under of this game of 58.5 points right now. And let me tell you why. Last year, it was a thriller. It was a double overtime thriller. They combined for well over 800 yards. But if you look at the whole season, Florida International did not even average 20 points a game. And then Louisiana Tech only averaged 28 a game. So I'm looking at that 58.5. Do we think it's going to be a shootout? Maybe not like it was last year. Both defenses seems to have improved over the course of this last season to where they were right now. I don't see this being the same shootout as it was last year. I'm glad we take the under. That is currently at 58.5. But guys, that is going to wrap things up for this edition of the Any Given Saturday podcast. Let me know what your thoughts about any of the game previews, if you agree or disagree with what I have to say. If there's any games in week number 1 that is going to be happening on the week of August 28th, if you want me to preview any specific game, let me know in the comments section. Love to hear your thoughts and games that you're interested in me talking about. Because I'm glad we talk about any game, because I want this podcast to be made by the people for the people, right? So that being said, definitely leave that in the comments if you're interested in doing so. And if you made it this far in the podcast, first of all, I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. You could help me out by hitting that like button. That helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And then also hitting that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. With that being said, I am your host, Jake, of the Any Given Saturday podcast. We are going to go ahead and sign off, but hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.